Okay, goodbye horses, goodbye horses. Cue Lazarus. Cue Lazarus's Goodbye Horses. Alright, let's do this one. Alright, this song was about my memory of Spain. My most prominent memory of Spain was just this one horse that my grandmother had on her farm. I don't remember who it belonged to exactly, but my uncles rode horses. And the earliest photograph I had of my father was just a shot of him on a horse. And he also had long hair in this picture. One day, hold on a second, let me just adjust my brightness because it's kind of bugging me out. It's kind of bright, it's kind of too bright for my eyes at the moment here. Okay, I'm going back now. Okay. One day, while we were out at the market, I spotted a tray of sugar cubes and bought it as a gift for the horse. The horse had a name, and I remembered it for several years after I left Spain. Hold on. Okay. But I don't remember anymore. I only remember the name of a dog now who stole one of my shoes while I was playing in the sand. That dog's name was Perla. Anyway, I remember my father bragging about how he gave me a couple dollars to buy something for myself at the market. I used it to buy sugar as a gift for my favorite horse. The media sort of demented the content of this song, as you might be aware, but it's just a song written by a child. It's literally about just saying goodbye to his horses at the end of his holiday. In the process of leaving Spain and going back to the States. I wrote Cue Lazarus on the song as a way to indicate resurrecting my connection to my horses at some future time. It's not any person's name. I don't remember the singer's name or the name of the person who gave her the song, but reading into it online, it looks like she was creeped out by the music industry, abandoned it, and got a job as a bus driver somewhere in Vermont or something. Actually, I think it was Staten Island. Anyway, I remember that my younger half-sister Erica was irritated and confused over why I would have done something so ridiculous like use my money to buy a gift for a horse, instead of buying myself something, or maybe buying a gift for her instead. I liked this horse, I found myself having to explain, and it seemed ridiculous to me to pass up the opportunity to show it that I was its friend over opportunities I will always have to buy you things, both here in Spain and after we go home. She was angry that I had an answer that disarmed her effort to profile me as inferior, and went crying to her dad about what I said, complaining that she was less important than some horse. I told her she was welcome to have a sugar cube if she wanted one. But since she's not the one I bought them for, the offer evaded her empathy. What am I going to do with that? Put it in your coffee. I don't drink coffee, she said, looking at me like I was crazy. Defensively, I'm a little kid. It's a metaphor. If you have tea, or chocolate, or Kool-Aid, or lemonade, then you can call it your coffee. Using your imagination is not a crime. You're a weirdo, she said, and huffed off, crying again. Listen, I said, it's not a crime to do something for your own self. Like you said, you do you, and I do me. Those horses are part of my memory of this place, and it is more valuable to me to have the idea that they will remember me too, than just to forget about them and buy myself a goddamn donut. You said a bad word, I'm telling on you. I laughed. You're not funny. I'm not laughing at myself. You're not my dad. No, I'm not. I laughed again. This childhood shit is giving me a headache. I'm going outside. You shouldn't talk to your sister like that, my dad said. She's a child. But she's the one who came to me asking for an answer. Wouldn't I have been disrespectful if I just lied to her? Of course, she is more important than a horse. She's a human, and my sister, and doesn't deserve to be lied to, right? Sometimes you have to lie to people to make them feel better, he said. They don't have interest in the truth. You waste your time. Then, we live in a simulation where nothing is real, and we just pretend we care while we watch each other die. Erica asked me why I care about a horse. Is open expression of appreciation for horses really this complex of an issue? It makes more sense to me to allow someone to possess insight into the nature of their selfishness, especially if they requested it. If you tell people you love horses, they will say you are gay. Seriously? I don't even have a response for that. I can't love horses and women at the same time? He said that if a man asks a woman if she wants to ride his horse, knocked the lid up. Where was I? Okay. He said that if a man asks a woman if she wants to ride his horse, he is talking about having sex, because the horse symbolizes his penis. Well, that is convenient, I said, but now we have placed female horses in a position of inferiority, and a woman who owns a horse can't say the same thing unless maybe she is a lesbian, I suppose. He shrugged. That is how it is. The world is a strange place. Who do we know? Who do we even know? Personally, who is that weak? Anyway. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, never mind. I thought about my mother. Regardless, I think it bears merit to offer salvageability to the human soul of someone still close to us on their own behalf, as well as ours and our horses. So later, when Erica brought the conversation back up after talking to our dad about it, this time dismissed of her former adversarial position and receptive to my outlook, I said that I would write a song, and we would listen to it on the radio, and it would be called Goodbye Horses. So, you see, if I didn't have the imagination to express my appreciation for horses, we would not get to experience the privilege of enjoying music that we made. That makes sense, she said, and they'll use the song in a movie too, I said, about a crazy man who wishes he was a woman and sings along in front of a mirror with his penis tucked between his legs, and a hostage trapped in his basement, whose skin he intends to sew into clothing. Okay, now you've gone too far, she said. Okay. Yeah, I guess you're right, I said, too exhausted at that point to have to keep explaining things that should already be obvious. I guess this is maybe another example of a reason why my father wanted to discourage my interest in songwriting, but it made less sense to me to be negligent towards any possible angle of the situation, because otherwise repressing an idea's option to serve as a demonstrative metaphor in entertainment would cause it to manifest itself in someone's actual experience, which in cases like this would be unideal unless I imagined I was a psychopath, which I wasn't. Interest in creative expression doesn't translate to psychosis. It is an indication of motivation for collective resolution, especially if the plot resembles an actual situation that people might like to understand the nature of, in prevention of blindly setting themselves up for it. There's nothing wrong with having the option to learn from the mistakes of fictional characters in a movie. Cinema, as a spectator sport exclusive from academic function, would just be irresponsible, and I did explain this to her the following day after getting some rest and regenerating my energy. Again, she changed her demeanor and expressed agreement with the sentiment of this being a good idea, and now the signal was out there. Years passed where no further conscious reference to the song was made on my own part, even as I was watching the movie and remembering my horses. I didn't remember my own song, and no one reminded me. I was at the theater with my mom, who wasn't there when I did it, and I never told her about it, and I guess no one else did either. There were times when the memory would briefly resurface as spoofs of the movie scene seemed to follow me around, like the one in that Jay and Silent Bob movie, only to promptly regress back into the subconscious. Since it didn't really serve any function for me as informing anyone I was the original author, only earned me disdainful attitudes and judgment towards mental illness profiling. So more years passed wherein I had just completely forgot that I had done anything here. I'm now remembering two other occasions where memory of my authorship of Goodbye Horses surfaced. One was in high school during freshman year at Amos Alonzo Stag in Palos Hills, where I overheard some girls talking in the hall about having found out I was the original author of Goodbye Horses. This information was completely foreign to me, and so far as I was aware, I'm not the one who gave it to them. At least not directly, and they weren't talking to me directly, but intentionally within my hearing peripheral to each other. The one girl said she was receiving this data from me telepathically because she was gothic, and she could hear me because she wasn't a part of the conspiracy. They were blacking me out and holding me in a gas chamber, she said, while hijacking my account until they saw their chance to terminate me, but traps were set in my scripting that were reversing the power source origins and taking them out first, along with innocent people programmed in as sacrifices and casualties. I remember now that they picked up my signal because I said something to one of them directly earlier that day in an effort to snap them out of such a program. I didn't remember the details, though, like who it even was, what their name was, who what exactly I said. She looked at me directly in the eye and asked me if I knew who she was and why she was there. Someone I saved, I said, here to protect my horses. At this point, it was just a metaphor. I was not reminiscing about Spanish horses anymore. That was long ago. I knew I would not be returning to Spain any time in the foreseeable future, dismissing my alleged status as the king, and I knew that back then. I just responded this way because they said something about a song I wrote called Goodbye Horses, so I figured, well, I guess that's possible. She had a hurt look in her eye, and she said, you wrote Goodbye Horses. You wrote that song. Goodbye Horses is your song. Thank you for protecting my memory, I said. I will not forget now. The other incident, okay, I mean, I didn't say it exactly that way. I remember that day, but I mean, I'm reading it that way, but it was a human moment. I didn't sound like a freaking robot when I said that. Anyway, the other incident where someone reminded me that I wrote Goodbye Horses was at a babysitter's apartment while still in grade school. Specifically, Ginny, mother of the two twin sisters I watched The Wizard of Oz with that day, mentioned earlier in this book. She took me aside at one point to her bedroom, not for anything funny, but because she wanted to talk to me privately, even though no one else was in the apartment at that moment to my knowledge for some reason, which she asked my permission to do first, respectfully. She had the song. I remember now. I had given it to her daughters and gave them permission to give it to her to keep safe. So she had it there in her bedroom. She asked me, she was showing me where she had it. Okay. She asked me what it was about, thinking maybe it was about the horses in the Bible, since another biblical reference was on the song. It's just about a horse I made friends with and his horse friends. I like to write songs, and sometimes I use a memory to make a song. Who is Q Lazarus, she asked. I don't know. Q-Bert's lost brother? The sexy black lady singing my song? I guess it could be anyone who wants to give life to the song or be alive in it as it. I don't know. Q&A. Who is it? You tell me. Wait a minute. You like black women? I'm annoyed by skin color biased judgmentalism, which naturally leads me to attraction to other ethnicities. Yes, is that bad? It's part of my human nature and enculturation. I guess the song could be about a white guy getting with a black girl, and the horses are metaphorical for other men or soldiers on horseback or whatever, sure. But once a song is given to the world, it is up to the listener to decide whether to attach their own meaning and identity, not me or you. The song will take on its own forms in the realms of time, but I'm 9 years old, and in mine, it's just literally about horses. She said she loved the song and thought it was beautiful and profound, and I was grateful that I had someone to give it to who appreciated it, and I never saw her again. She said that she reread the song multiple times, each time gleaning different meanings, and I acknowledged that was part of the function of the song and its meditative element. She asked me if she could tell my mom about it, and I informed her that if she did this, she would experience disillusionment with a frivolous and dismissive attitude towards it because she would regard it as lacking in value out of jealousy and would also make motions to obtain it so she could destroy it, then hold it as a grudge against me after the fact as its special nature. Janine didn't want to believe any of this. You have my permission to test the theory then, I said, and tell her about it, but keep it put away, and don't let her have it. It does not belong to her. I gave it to you, and it is your exclusive property. I understand, she said. I will honor that. You gave it to my daughters to give to me so that she has no possession claim. Leverage, that makes sense. In either case, if you share that knowledge with her, she will hold a grudge against you for taking my side, and your eye bond with her will be permanently broken, at which point you'll know who she really is, and she won't bring me back over here anymore, and you'll never see either of us again. That's what you're afraid will happen? No, that's what will happen. Fear isn't involved. In fact, what you will gain from the experience will leave you with less of it and make you a stronger person. The reason she picked you to look after me isn't a good one, and you'll figure that out in the process also. It's your decision, and it's nice knowing you. You're not a disobedient child. You're just telling me the truth. I guess that's the page we're on. Sure, I said, disregarding the consequences. She said, no. I said, the consequences are taken into context and full conscientious regard. They are always far more damaging for the dishonest. My mother loves horses too, but doesn't deserve them, so on her receiving end, the song is quite an abrasively menacing insult, and there's absolutely nothing you or me can ever do to correct it, not with prayer, hills, this song, or anything else. It is a terminal fatal error on her end. You'll find out. That blows my mind. She said, it's really nothing to battle over. I said, some people are selfish, recognize it, deal with it accordingly, dismiss it, move on. Goodbye, horses. It's black and white. We have responsibilities. Selfish people don't matter. You have an answer for everything, she said. I had an answer for that. Not everything deserves an answer. I like you and would be sad to find myself having to let you be wrong. My energy for corrective response is not inexhaustive, though, unfortunately. Will you give me a break? Sure, she said, with a loving measure so casual and non-adversarial. Through this entire conversation, I overheard her catching up with her mundane consciousness after walking away and realizing she'd been double-checked. After a minute of processing everything that had been said, she was so comfortable in my company and energy she thought maybe she could still fix the problem, and at that point didn't have the option not to try. When my mom returned, everything transpired as I predicted, and that chapter was permanently closed. Her daughters attended the same school I was going to at that time, which is how we all met. They approached me in the parking lot, asked me where my parents were. They were two attractive girls in a higher grade than me. I got close to the one who was talking to me and gave them both the radio and the TV. We became close friends pretty much on the spot, even though I warned them that I was a witch. They asked me what I meant by that. Do you remember Looney Tunes? I said. Yes. It used to be called Merry Melodies. Then some other alternate titles followed with slight spelling variations appearing on the opening title screens while watching the tunes. If you noticed them, they were Merry Melodies. Then Looney Tunes, Looney, or Looney Tunes, Loony. So, they said, so, the history of this cartoon's title is now permanently set to Looney Tunes, Loonytoons, because that keeps it in sync with Tiny Toons, which is the new generation of tunes made by the children of the characters in Looney Tunes. Whatever other titles you might see are now hypothetical residual evidence from a reality that doesn't exist anymore, and never did. So, I said, the world around us that we live in and experience is now different. You will notice other differences from things as you once remembered them, just because you are interacting with me, even if you stop. You can't turn back now, you're locked into this reality. It's important to know you are making the right decisions. We still want to be your friends. Do you intend to hurt us? No. If you pick up that signal, don't talk to me anymore. They said, after finding out I was just abandoned there on that parking lot, that their mom stayed at home and they could make an arrangement for me to stay with them to account for the missing time. I informed them that would only work for so long as my mom didn't have the impression that anyone was taking my side, and the rules to what exactly that meant were arbitrary, so our timeline would inevitably be very short and end abruptly and illogically. When Janine asked me what nature of menace or insult could possibly be gleaned from this song, I pointed out that it called her a whore. No, it doesn't. How? Where? Goodbye Whore, I said, is the title of her version of the song. When she tries to tell you that the song I gave you is her property, and you stand your ground, she will call you a whore, and act at first as if it's a joke, but then persist in her demand to claim your property. Although no intention to call anyone a whore actually exists on that document, that is what she will do to it. That's when that crazy guy out there sings along in front of a mirror, with his penis tucked between his legs, and a screaming hostage in his basement, scheduled to have her skin stripped off and sewn into garments. You interrupt him with a knock at his front door, then walk into the house with FBI credentials and a gun, kill this fool, and retrieve the girl. The doctor who informed you of his location is a cannibal who you just accidentally let loose in exchange for that info, though. There's always a sacrifice, you see. Lord Jesus. I guess so. Kind of like that, maybe, yeah. Do you know the name of the actress playing me, the agent? I'm just wondering, at this point, how psychic you are and how far down the rabbit hole I'm going here. She said, you're under no obligation to watch this movie, I said. I mean, as an independent woman with the strength to speak for herself, rather than be pushed over by a bully, you stand in reality, not in a rabbit hole. Her name is Jodie Foster, because it's a shout out to my Aunt Jodie, who tried to foster me and became severely ill as a result of putting herself in the position to be attacked. It was a long, slow, painful sickness. Now you've granted her vengeance in the process of speaking on her behalf. Can I ask what the name of this movie is? She said. It's called The Silence of the Lambs. I guess that's pretty generic, huh? No, I like it, she said. Thanks. Okay, we'll go with that then, I said. She looked at me as if trying to determine whether I was the devil. I said, oh, pardon my delayed response. If such a thing as the devil has to exist, I'm definitely him then, as are you. Does that make sense? She said it made perfect sense, and I was relieved. Again, pleased to meet you, I said. It's rare to be talking to someone from the church that doesn't have the impression I'm some kind of bad guy. I mean, speaking as the devil. There was an incident I remember several years later where I asked my mom if she ever heard anything from Janine. She said that lady had dementia and told her I was the devil and she didn't deserve horses and some other weird stuff. That's interesting, I said. What is? She said. Oh, I was just talking to a black hole in space. Oh yeah? What did it say? Nothing. It was stupid. I'm not talking to it anymore. So, what's the name of this crazy lady skinning guy? Janine is just rewinding again back in time to this conversation. I don't know. Some dumb serial killer name like Buffalo Bill or something. But the movie isn't really about him. He's just part of the plot. It's more focused on the doctor or the relationship between the doctor and the agent. The cannibal, right. What's his name? Hannibal. Hannibal the cannibal. Lecter. Lecter? Yeah, he's fed up with either being lectured or lecturing, so he just eats people to feel better about it, I guess. The movie is a sequel to a prior movie just about him called Manhunter, I guess. Hannibal Lecter. I guess that should be enough structure for a pilot then. So 2 movies and a song. I guess that's the least I can offer in the way of a fair trade for your trouble. You're not any trouble, she said. You're the easiest person to be around I've ever met. That's not what I meant, I said. Oh, you mean in the process of doing things that are productive, problems get solved? Right. I said, right. It's important to stay focused because since this conversation took the form of a lecture for a whole second there, Hannibal Lecter shapeshifted into an actual person who lives here in Chicago named Jeff, whose freezer is full of penises he got from young homosexual boys he picked up at bars. And the movie is now based on a true story about actual serial killers out there who used the handless Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter. Jeffrey Dahmer was caught by the police and killed in prison since I just said his whole name, but Lecter changed his name and is still at large. My father has a homosexual brother named Eddie who met Jeff at a bar and almost went home with him, but got a weird vibe and decided not to. Close call, I guess, but Eddie died a slow and painful death of AIDS shortly thereafter, so was that a lesser evil than ending up in pieces in Jeff's apartment? Good point, she said. Okay, you've given me enough to change my whole perception of how focus of thought affects experience and consequences. Thank you. We can drop this subject now. Okay, and that is the backstory. That is the backstory to Goodbye Horses by Q Lazarus. And I'm going to stop this video now because I'm actually kind of